Hello, beautiful co-creators of the new paradigm. This is Rita Kokolhoff from Design for Awareness, and today I am speaking to you from a boat on the Red Sea of Egypt. Today is my last day of a whole week of swimming with the dolphins that are wildly and freely living in the Red Sea here in Egypt, and I've been having such an amazing time. And I thought I would take this little moment at the last day of the whole week to share with you some little things that I believe I have learned. And I realized there is so much that has already been said about dolphins, and especially on a spiritual level, them being so intensely interwoven with the energy of the Sirius star system, them being able to telepathically communicate with themselves, of course, and with us, and what kind of influence that can have on us. Of course, you may have heard in the past or somewhere, anywhere, about the healing influence dolphins can have on people who have challenges like severe autism, and how beautiful the work is that dolphins do with children that, for instance, couldn't speak, and after they have had encounters with dolphins, that they are able to speak. So there is some impressive stuff that we know about dolphins, but really, in my opinion, I think we have only just started to scrape the top of the iceberg, because there is so much that can be said about these wonderful, wonderful friends of the ocean that we all have. But okay, so for this video, I just wanted to point out that with the, I guess, increasing interest from the spiritual world into having a real dolphin encounter, that what I learned is, please find a place where the dolphins are free, because even though meeting a dolphin in captivity can be very impressive too, I'm not saying that that is a bad thing in that sense. Once you have seen them in the wild, and once you have been with them in the wild and have them approach you on their own terms, that is such an entirely different experience, that even if you may have had a beautiful experience with them in captivity, after this you will probably never want to have such an experience again, and you will feel and realize the difference between the both situations. My first wild dolphin encounter was in 2012, and I can tell you it was immense. It was really impressive. I even needed some days to integrate everything that they had shared with me, because it was so in-depth. And what you also see with the groups of people that start to interact with the wild dolphins is, for instance, that they have physical reactions to it. You can become kind of emotional and start to release certain things, or you may have very vivid dreams in which you get messages, something that you needed to know from your higher self, or things from the past that resurface and want to be let go of, which is all very beautiful. But of course, it is still up to you how you work and deal with these messages, because you're always the one, well, in that sense, in control as to how you respond to these things. I would say that, yeah, so the organization that I'm going with, I'm not making any commercials here, so I'm not going to mention any kind of name. They made us sign a paper before we came here to this specific area that says, you promise you will not touch the dolphins. And I think that is really, really important, that we respect the dolphins, and that we understand that the idea of what we have seen in the movies with Flipper and people surfing on the fins and all of that is not a natural kind of interaction that humans and dolphins have automatically. They are very strong and playful animals, So this whole week, all of us have been swimming with our hands very politely next to our bodies, and if there was any physical interaction as touching was concerned, it was on the initiative of the dolphins, and they just slightly touched us with a little bit of their fin, of their nose, and believe me, none of that is ever any coincidence. They use their sonar and they know exactly where you are. They are so fast of thought that they realize when you're gonna make a turn, they realize when you're gonna stop or suddenly stick out your hand or something, and they can easily flow around it and avoid any touching if they don't want it. So I really felt we were like one pod. The humans and the dolphins, we were swimming together in beautiful harmony, like birds on the wind. And it was so beautiful, it was so impressive. And if they wanted to leave, we let them leave. And you could feel the difference if you go into a wild dolphin encounter with an open heart and with true respect. You can see whether they are open to play or whether they want to have some alone time. This is another thing I want to say. If you go with an organization that organizes a thing like this, make sure that they're not hunting down the dolphins, that they're not rushing them into a certain direction or constantly cornering them so that the guests get to see the dolphins. You will notice if that is what happens and the dolphins are not into playing, you go into the water eventually and they'll be gone in a jiffy. So you have maybe seen a fin or a tail, which is an entirely different experience of going into this kind of experience with respect, love, patience and trust, most of all. What I also learned is if there's a pod of dolphins swarming around you and they go away, most of the time you don't even have to necessarily follow them with your paddling fins. But if you just send out the message to them with your mind, with your heart, I'm here if you want to, you can come back, so up to you, that they will turn around and come back and play with you again. It is pretty amazing. So that is some things that I really wanted to have said, also in accordance to what I realize of, as is apparently still going on in America, a whole discussion about changing the law of being able to swim with dolphins at any given time, or just making that a prohibited thing, to forbid it. They are considering this law, as I understand it, to grant more ease and peace for the dolphins. So the way I look at it is a little bit of both sides. I really do understand where the wish for this law is coming from, because I have also seen organizations that are pretty much invading the ease and peace of the dolphins. So that does also exist. So what they did here in Egypt, and that's another reason why I'm making this video, they found a middle way. So there is a part in Egypt, also the Red Sea, where there's a lot of dolphins. There's also a lot of tourists coming there to see them in the wild. And they found a way to make this inner sea bay. There's like a coral reef creating a kind of more calm bay area inside the sea, in the Red Sea, where the dolphins like to come and play. Now, they divided it in segments, a part for the tourists, a part for tourists and dolphins together, you could say, where they can meet, and then a part where beyond it is just dolphins, and if as a tourist or as a boat you go there, you are trespassing the law. And I really like that, because you give the dolphins the opportunity in a certain area where they love to be anyway, to retreat, to take a moment of pause, to be on themselves, and if they wish to play with humans again, they can. And they're very intelligent, so they get that right away. As soon as you divide the area into segments, they'll get it, and they'll notice it, of course, by the behavior of the people. So that is something that perhaps the United States, the way they were thinking about, we want to protect the dolphins, but we don't want to cut off the tourism either. That is a way to find a balanced solution, I would say, or think. Perhaps that would be an ideal for Hawaii as well. That, for instance, certain beaches are okay to go into the water with the dolphins and certain beaches are not. So you give them some solitude if they want to. So these were just some random thoughts on all of this. This week I have definitely had some amazing personal experiences again as well. I cannot express how impressive it has been for me to be so close to them. Since we don't touch and the whole group that I was with is so respectful to them, they came very close. They were almost like side by side, sometimes just an inch between us. And to look them in the eyes and to see them gaze back at you and blink a little, and you can almost hear their thoughts. They're smiling or they're saying, come play. And they reflect back to you exactly what you need to see about yourself in that moment. At least, of course, is my personal experience. So anyway, if you feel curious to connect with dolphins at some point in your life, I would say grab your little checklist or connect with the organization that you are interested in and ask them what their rules are and how respectful they are, because that would be the best foundation for your experience, I'd say. So that is for now. I will go into the idea of dolphins and the Sirius connection a lot more later video that I plan to make when I get back home. Now I'm gonna pick up the camera and walk a little bit around the boat. I made this little video inside one of the rooms because it is crazy windy, so I could not possibly make this video on the rooftop, which was what I planned to do before, but too much noise. So I hope this sound is at least kind of decent, and prepare for some noise, or perhaps I will edit some music under. And yes, that's it for now. I will walk you around the ship and I send you so much love. Thank you for being you. Okay.